to I'll throw it open for questions. And folks should feel free to put questions into the chat window if you want to do it that way. Excuse me, or just feel free to speak out. But if you put it in the chat window, Shannon can share those with me. So our Master's in Quantitative Economics program is kind of a unique STEM degree program. It's 8 months long. It's a professional degree program, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that distinction means. And the program really sits at the intersection of economics and data science. During the program, you can take 10 courses spanning 4 sessions or 4 quarters. Those are full-on courses, which means that the program is really quite intense. It's the equivalent of about 1.5 years of coursework that we're going to do in 8 months. And the cohort, the students that are in the program are a mix of early to mid-career folks who are looking to retool. Liza, you asked, what can I do with my math and science background, for instance? That'd be could be a great fit for you. And we also have folks who are coming fresh out of undergraduate, so we get a mix. One of the things that's important about the program and about us is that we have a really strong commitment to putting together a diverse cohort of students, right? And also getting a lot of group cohesion. So this isn't the sort of place where you're going to come and compete with each other unless it's in a friendly way. And so we think that this is the feedback we're getting from our current students. We've got a pretty diverse class right now. It's also a very tight-knit group, and the students like both of those things about the program. And those are both things that we're focused on and that are important to us. And the last thing, and this connects back to the fact that this is a professional degree program, we're very focused on employment outcomes, right? And what that means is we've actually, designed this program, this degree, from the ground up with a focus on what employers are telling us that they need us to train students to do for them to be the most in demand and most useful in the workforce. And I'll expound on that a little bit more. Let me tell you just a little bit about the setting. So first off, our program is in Pittsburgh. I don't know if you folks have been to Pittsburgh or not. It's just a wonderful city. It's also a real hub now for healthcare, education, and technology. It's a great place to live. We have great restaurants, great culture, beautiful landscape. We are in the University of Pittsburgh, which is a top-notch public university. For the last 5 years, we've been named the #1 public university in the Northeast by the Wall Street Journal. And then the Department of Economics is a top econ department. And we've got faculty who are leading in their areas in micro and macroeconomics, experimental economics, econometrics, and applied microeconomics. But that's a little bit about the setting. A little bit about jobs. I'm sure that at some level, at least I hope at some level, you're all thinking about what would this investment mean for me in terms of my employability. So this is just a couple of numbers taken out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics 2020 report, identifying economists as being a real growth area for jobs and also a well-paying. Shannon the other day just went on ZipRecruiter, and this is just an example of the type of jobs that showed up when you describe our typical students. And again, I can talk a little bit more about that later. So the MQE program, our MQE program is unique in its combination of focus, right? So first off, this is a program that's inside an economics department. And so we're very focused on providing a solid framework in economic modeling and intuition so that everything that you're going to do as an analyst, right, is going to be grounded in that framework. And if you have, if you're an undergraduate econ major, that's great. If you're not an undergraduate econ major, but have just taken a couple econ courses, that's great too, right? And so when I mentioned early on about a diverse cohort, one of the ways that we want diversity is we want to have some students coming out of econ programs, but we also want students coming out of poli-sci or a science background or a math background or a computer science background. And right now we have a pretty diverse set of folks, and that strengthens our program. But for all those people, we're going to work to build a really strong core in economic modeling and intuition. We couple that with data science and econometrics. So if you happen to be an econ major, you would have taken an econometrics course. If you happen to be a bio major, you would have taken probably a biostatistics course. And so we're going to build a solid skill set at the intersection of some data science, econometric statistics, so that you'll be able to take that economic intuition that I talked about in the first bullet point here, and then apply it to the analysis of data. The third piece of the academic training is about communication and what we like to call analytical storytelling or analytical narratives or analytic narratives. So one of the things that we hear from potential employers, and it makes a lot of sense to us, is that, you know, they really need their analysts to be able to convey to other people inside the company, folks outside of their analytics group, essentially, you know, the reason why the questions they're asking are important to the firm or the organization or the entity. And they also need to be able to convey the answers that were found in answering those questions in a really effective way. Because if you can't communicate your results and get folks to respond and act on them, you are going to be at a real disadvantage. You're not going to be very effective. And then the last piece is professional development. And so the first three bullets are all part of the academic you know, coursework. We have a whole parallel track that Shannon's in charge of around professional development, where it's things as rudimentary as how to get a resume done, to networking, communication, and again, I'll talk a little bit more about that as well in a second. So let me just put some meat on the bones of these different bullet points. So first off, you know, what are we going to be teaching you about economics? Well, we're going to start by grounding you in traditional neoclassical economic theory. This is demand and supply, right? So in your undergraduate economics class, you drew all those X's with an upward sloping demand or supply curve and a downward sloping demand curve. You talked about monopoly, probably, things like that. So this is going to be a crash course reminding you, reinforcing those basic ideas, but then going more deeply into them. What do they mean for in the real world? The next component in the econ sort of modeling and thinking thrust is going to be game theory. And game theory, some of you may or may not have come across, for instance, the prisoner's dilemma. But game theory is the way that economists think about strategic interactions and competition in strategic environments. The third thing we're going to talk with you about is going to be behavioral economics. So, you know, economics is a really powerful tool for understanding the world, for understanding how firms work, understanding how individuals behave. Traditionally, that's been grounded in this notion of rational thinking and optimizing behavior. But we also know, and the profession has paid a lot of attention to this fact, that folks don't always act in that sort of clear, rational, you know, optimizing behavior. And so behavioral economics is a part of economics that has come around to be able to try to explain other types of behavior. So we've got a lot of strength in the department in that area, and so that'll be a component. Then lastly, all of this stuff, whether it be, you know, strategic interactions, whether it be demand and supply, whether it be, you know, behavioral economics, all of this is happening within the context of a global economy. And so we also have a core component in our training on international finance and the macroeconomy. So you understand, you know, macroeconomic variables and are able to think about and relate with the macroeconomics. So that is the economics component. The second leg, if you want to think about that way, of the stool on the academic side, is going to be the data science piece, right? And we're going to do a bunch of different things here, all of which are designed to bring you up to speed so that you can interact with and act as a data scientist, so that you know how to use all the appropriate tools to analyze data in your work as an analyst, right? So we're going to do classical regression analysis. Folks have probably seen, at least some of you have seen that. We'll spend time on what is, you know, a large part of empirical economics right now, which is causal inference and quasi-natural experiments. How do we use linear models essentially to figure out if A caused B, or to understand, you know, how a decrease in price of 15 cents on a candy bar is going to drive demand up, or how a certain change in city policy is going to impact eviction rates, right? So that's that traditional and how you can do that with data. Then we're going to also teach you about structural estimation and sufficient statistics. These are modeling techniques in economics that are focused on taking and applying more directly a theoretical model to data. And so trying to essentially, how do I parameterize this model, this theoretical model, is a applied theory model I have, how do I use data to inform me about what the parameters of that model are? So those three are things that I would say are really traditional, empirical economics techniques. Then we're going to jump into a more data science set of techniques. We're going to talk about big data, and we're going to talk about machine learning. So we're going to train you on random forests and neural networks and all of the different approaches, largely for prediction, that have been developed by computer scientists to think about machine learning, and particularly how to do that in a world where you've got just very, very large data sets. We also will talk with you and train you about field experiments. And this is a situation where, gosh, we'd really like to know how people are going to respond to a change in the labeling on a milk bottle. But we don't have any data on that. We have a firm that's willing to let us actually go and do A/B testing in their firm to find something about that. And so we'll train you on how you do that, those sort of what we call field experiments. And then one thing that's gonna run through all of this is going to be the set of software we're going to be teaching you to use. So we're going to be working with R and Python as our two main statistical packages or computing packages, right? Those are the packages right now that employers tell us they want. They're also the packages that are being used for all the most cutting edge data science stuff. Then we're also going to use a set of software packages, GitHub, Jupyter Lab, and Spider, that are designed to allow individuals to collaborate on projects. And these are the pieces of software that a potential employer might ask you about, because these are going to be the pieces of the software that they're actually using inside their firms or their organizations or in their departments, right? So that is the data science piece. And then the third piece is communications. And this notion of analytical narratives is just so important. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about our advisory board in a second, but we have an advisory board that's made up of essentially the chief data officers for a number of big companies in the region. And one of those advisory board members is Dr. Pamela Peel. She's the head of data analytics for UPMC, one of the biggest healthcare companies in the country. And she has a staff of about 30 or 40 people who do data analytics for her. And one of those people on her staff is a journalist. And so when she was meeting with a bunch of our students, one of our students said, "So I saw that you hired a journalist on your data analytics team. What was that about?" And she just spoke eloquently about how one of the biggest challenges they have is being able to communicate their findings effectively to the rest of the firm, in this case, the rest of UPMC, and how important that is, because they spend a whole ton of money on data analytics at UPMC. If they're not actually seeing changes implemented in the company as a result of that analysis, that money is being wasted, right? Her words. And so we focus on that really heavily. We spend a lot of time with you on your writing skills, a lot of time on speaking. We'll actually videotape you. You'll get feedback on that. I'll just say, this is the most uncomfortable part of the program. When I talk to our students about the biggest surprises that they've had in the program, it's this particular tier of the coursework, because they're just, they all really feel like they're getting a lot out of it, but they find it really challenging because they're constantly being forced to evaluate how they communicate and what they do. So we're doing that with writing and speaking, professional communication. So we actually will talk about, what are the appropriate forms of address? How do you write an email? I mean, sometimes some really fundamental stuff, but we find a lot of times folks who haven't been in the work world, at least, don't have that. And then we'll also spend time on data visualization, and specifically on not just writing and speaking in general, but how you effectively communicate analytical results. And so, for instance, there'll be, right now, what we're doing in the program is you'll get an assignment in one of your analytical classes, right, to go analyze this data and answer question X, answer a question about COVID, or who knows what it's going to be about. And then, then you'll turn in that assignment to the professor that's teaching that part of the class. Right now will be Claire. And then after you've done that assignment, your next assignment over in the communications class is going to be, okay, now you've got to write a non-technical 3-page or a 3-minute presentation explaining the results you got in this analytical exercise that you did over in the in the quant class, right? And so and that's going to be both the writing and speaking, but also data visualization. And I should say, because it's important in the current world, is that, and we're working on this both in terms of in-person, our courses, our classes are meeting in person, but also through Zoom, right? How to communicate remotely. So those are the three, basic academic, pillars or legs of the stool, if you want to call them that. Here's just a schematic of how this is organized. If you look down here, you'll see there are 3 columns of classes. The first column is going to be our economic thinking track. The middle column is our data science econometrics track. And on the right-hand side is our communication track. First half of the year, that's the communication stuff I was just telling you about. The second half of the year, that's going to be our capstone course. And in that capstone course, what you're going to be doing is actually getting into small teams and actually working with a real client, working with a I see I got a chat thing here with a oh, the slides are this. I'm sorry, the slides are delayed a bit. Stay with me. So you're actually working with a real client, typically someone from our advisory board on a real world problem they have, working in a group or 2 of 3, directed by one of our faculty members to actually answer a question for them. So this is a real world experience. One of the challenges with an 8-month intensive program like we have is we need to get you the real world experience so that when you're out there on job interviews, you can talk about things you've actually done. And all of our coursework, particularly the quantitative coursework, is designed to provide examples of that type of experience, but those are all going to be pretty encapsulated. The capstone course itself is you're going to be spending 2 or 3 months working on a problem with a real client to give you that experience. So this is the course schedule. Oh, what's going on now? There we go. So here are the faculty. We literally chose the best teaching faculty in the department to teach this class. They're also fantastic researchers. And I can tell you that they're just doing a great job. The students are really enjoying the classes. They're also finding them really challenging. No question about that. So along with the academic, sort of the 3 pillars, the stool, whatever you want to call it, on the other side, we have career services, right? And this, as I mentioned, that it's important, this distinction, this is a professional degree program, right? And so if you're out there and you're a mid-career person coming back, you sort of know what that means, what it means to be in a professional setting. If you are coming straight out of undergraduate, one of the biggest challenges that we have and you have as part of our program is helping you transition from an undergraduate mindset, and there's absolutely nothing wrong. That's the right mindset to have as an undergraduate student. But when you come into our program, we're going to quickly transition you to a professional mindset, right? And so we're going to be doing that in the way our courses are organized, right? It becomes less about a grade and more about effort and skill acquisition, right? Because at the end of the day, you and us, we have the same goal. I know sometimes as an undergraduate, it's not clear that you and the professor have the same goal. The professor is up there evaluating your work. You're trying to get the best grade you can and hopefully trying to maximize knowledge. Here, we're on the same page. We're trying to make sure you're acquiring the skills that you're going to need to be really successful in the rest of your life, right? We do that in the academic setting, but there's a whole second set of activities around professional development. The first is going to be career advising. So we'll be talking to you about how to envision different careers, how to prepare yourself for them. We do professional development workshops. We have every week in the fall, we have what we call MQE career chats, where we bring in industry leaders to do a 1-hour talk/interview. Those interviews are run completely by our students. And essentially you're asking them almost anything you can think of. It generally starts by asking them about how they got started in their career, why are they doing what they do, and it can be be fascinating. You'll be talking to someone who's the head of a data analytics group for something on the scale of a Fortune 500 company, or for the Pittsburgh Penguins, who's as another example, or for Allegheny County for data analytics. How did you end up where you are? And you hear these interesting stories about how they didn't set out to be in charge of data analytics program at a large company or at a nonprofit or in a government agency, but how they got there, and then getting advice about best ways to move in direction A or B if that's what you want in terms of your career. And so what that does is it starts getting you comfortable interacting with really important players in this field. It lets you learn a lot about how the different aspects of data analytics and economics and advising on those dimensions occur in the workforce out there. It also helps you start building a network. And then in addition with these MQE MQE Career Chats, we also have another program that you'll be involved in called MQE Connects, where you'll actually be doing a series of one-on-one informational interviews with people who are connected with our program. And it's a curated set of interviews where we identify with you what your general interests are, where you're trying to go, and then we connect you with people who are part of our network who are in that industry. It'll be everything from, you know, you'll sit down and talk for a half hour, an hour with someone who's just 2 years into their job, right? And you'll learn about how they got started. And it'll be really fresh for them because they will have literally come on whatever program they just came out of. They'll be able to sort of relate very well directly to where you are coming from right now. But it will also include talking to someone who's been in a career in this field for 20 years and now is in charge of hiring for this firm. And it's like, okay, so what are you looking at when you hire? Where is the industry going? And so that's an opportunity for you to get comfortable in in those sort of interactions. It's also another opportunity for you to build your network. And I already mentioned the capstone courses is giving you more connections and more networking opportunities, as well as this real work experience. Should also mention we'll be doing things here like reviewing your resume. We're actually sending your resumes out to professionals in this field to get their feedback. We're doing mock interviews, and so we actually have you do a mock interview with a panel of folks as well who are professionals in the field. And so there's a full suite of career services that we provide. And let me, the last thing I want to talk about, I've mentioned a couple times our advisory board, and these are just some of the members of our advisory board. When we started developing this program, gosh, we've been 5-6 years ago, you know, one of the things that we really wanted to do was to make sure that we were developing a program that wasn't motivated by our academic interests. Fortunately, it overlaps with them quite a lot, but was motivated by what professionals in the industry are seeing that they need. And so we started approaching folks in the region about, you know, look, we're thinking about this master's program. We're thinking about, you know, aiming it to be at somewhere at the intersection of data analysis and economics. Generally, we want to generate folks who can do data analytics with an economic, you know, framework to build on and work from. And we just got such great responses. You know, we talked, for instance, you know, we talked to these folks and we explained this to them. And they're like, well, sign me up. I want to be there. I want to be on the advisory board because they're looking to develop, you know, pipelines for them to hire. You know, I had a meeting about a month ago now with the head of data analytics for Sheets. And most of you probably know Sheets, particularly if you're from this region. And he said to me, you know, I can teach people to do data science. I need people who can think strategically. I need people who can think about a problem holistically and not just be sort of an uninformed, you know, data cruncher without perspective. And you know, he's looking to build a big team of data analysts, and so he immediately, again, wants to be involved because they're looking for this. They're looking for folks who have this mix of skills. On the other side of the equation is that we're talking to these folks in an organized, you know, informally. We talk to them a lot. We talk to them around the capstone courses. We also talk to them in a formal setting several times a year where we strategize with them about, okay, where's the profession going? How do we need to adopt our coursework? What are the things? What are the trends that you're seeing out there, you know, in your world that we need to be responding to? And so I just can't say enough how much value these folks are bringing to the program and to us. And so that's another thing that I think is unique about what we do. And so let me just wrap up, you know, the formal part of what I would say, saying, look, here's our contact information. I'm sure Shannon will get out to you with a follow-up email as well. I'm gonna throw it open for questions here, but if any of you have any questions offline after we're done here, you should feel free to reach out. And I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And hey Gladys, I didn't see you were there. Welcome. And if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask. Don't be shy. One of the things our advisory board members tell us that in this virtual world that COVID has brought us in is that we need to be really aggressive. Oh, Matt, you've got your hand up. That's awesome. Was that my, yeah, that's my, it's funny. I have my mouse cursor on you. It's a hand. You don't have your hand up. But our advisory board members tell us that folks need to learn to be aggressive in terms of interacting remotely. All right. Are you bringing in planning on a job fair for employers in the area that are in need of? Shannon, do you want to talk about, we're going to do lots of things in that dimension, but maybe Shannon, you can talk about that.
Sure, absolutely. So the university has corporate relations staff. And so in the fall and in the spring, yes, we do have a job fair, and the Pitt Career Center is aware of the skills that the MQE students will be coming out of school. So they're specifically targeting. As well, we work with other schools on campus, the School of Computing and Information and CAT School of Business, who also bring in employers. And they are aware of the special skills that you all will have in economic thinking and data science. So in those capacities. The other thing that we will be doing is, along with our advisory board, they have advised our students on their resumes. We have a resume bank, and so those resume banks are being shared with corporate recruiters. Because of the pandemic, it's very difficult to bring in face-to-face employers, but that absolutely is something that we've been working on and is occurring across campus.
And I just would add, I mean, and Shannon touched on this, we also have a network that's continually growing from our MQE Connect program of folks, not just our advisory board, but a much larger network of folks in the industry as well. And so one of the things that we bring, and this is that professional development or professional degree program component, is we are connecting you with employers. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to convince them that they want to hire you, right? And having our degree is going to certainly help with that. But we're spending a lot of time helping you also train you so that when you get face-to-face with these folks or virtually face-to-face with these folks, that you can impress them. And I can tell you that the reactions we get, our advisory board members have been interacting virtually with our students for the last semester, and the feedback has been uniformly really, really positive. So I think that folks are doing a good job with that. Great question. That's interesting. Yeah, so Lucas, I mean, you will have, so you asked a bunch of questions there that are all bundled together. So let me try to unpack them. So, you know, the coursework itself is pretty set, right? And you're going really quick. And so one of the questions that sometimes folks will ask is, hey, if I really wanted to do some research in area X or area Y along the way, can I do that? And could you set it up? And our response is, well, yes, we would be happy to help make that happen, but let's wait until after you've been in the program for a month, because I think you're going to find that the program is we're not killing anybody. I think they're still having fun, but it's pretty intense. So there's not a lot of extra bandwidth for that. Now, in terms of the capstone project, you are not assigned a capstone project, right? We are recruiting a set of capstone projects. You know, next year I would guess it'll be about 6, and then you get to choose which of those projects that you want to get attached to. And so you will have some control, and there will be different, you know, very different things. So for instance, 2 examples of capstone projects that are going to happen this year. One is working with the Pittsburgh Penguins to develop a model of minor league hockey player salaries, because they don't currently have such a model. They have great models, machine learning based models of pro, you know, major league, you know, NHL hockey player salaries, but they don't for minor league players. But they're constantly negotiating salaries with minor league players, and so they really want to understand what the market looks like there. Another one is another one of our advisory board members, Fourth Economy, which is an economic development consulting firm, wants to understand the impact of COVID on evictions and wants to predict, okay, where over the coming 6 months to a year are we going to see the largest rise in evictions due to COVID? And so that gives you a sense for the scope or the breadth of the type of capstone projects that are going to be there. Some people are going to be really excited about the hockey thing. Other folks are going to say, why do I care about minor league hockey salaries, right? Other folks are going to be really excited about this eviction thing, particularly if you're interested in going into community development or community planning direction, right? But, you know, we're also talking with a couple of healthcare folks. We're also going to be doing with PNC Bank, right? So there's going to be you know, different alternatives, and we're working aggressively to make sure that it's a pretty heterogeneous group of projects. So we know we're going to have a heterogeneous group of students. And one of the things I mentioned, the diversity of the cohort, right? We also want diversity. We have this cohort, we'll get it in the next one. We want people who want to go into the private sector. Probably the majority of our students are looking to go into the private sector, but also we have folks who want to go into the nonprofit sector. We also have folks who want to go into government, right? And we're working to develop a slate of capstone projects each year so that you can meet those different interests. I'm always guilty of giving people a longer answer than they want from their questions, but I hope that that's helpful for you, Lucas. Any other questions? All right, well, hey, everybody, I went 5 minutes long, 6 minutes long now, so I should let you go. Thank you so much. You should feel free to email me, and I'm sure that goes for Shannon as well, if you have any questions. And otherwise, I'm sure we'll be in touch, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.